Ann Makovic, and this is The Minute. President Trump is set to announce new tariffs today. He says they are on a broad range of countries that tax U.S. goods. The tariffs will take effect immediately, and economists warn they could result in higher prices. Former State Attorney General Javier Becerra is in the race for governor. Becerra also served as Health and Human Services Secretary under President Biden. He is joining a growing pool of candidates, including former House Representative Katie Porter and State Superintendent Tony Thurmond. A new era for baseball in the Bay Area tonight with the Battle of the Bay 2.0. The San Jose Giants facing off against the Oakland Ballers. They're playing at Excite Ballpark in San Jose. That game airing tonight at 6 on Pix Plus 44 Cable 12. I'm Ann Makovic with The Minutes.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Well, the A's may have left town, but the battle goes on. We're going to meet the baseball minds putting a new spin on a fan favorite.
We're taking a piece of the Bay Area baseball history that has meant so much to this area and this region of fan and bringing it back.
Plus, we'll introduce you to some people in the South Bay whose families were forced into internment camps during World War II.
We need to remember this history.
We never want this to happen again to any other people.
Why they say it feels like history is repeating itself. And we're going to take you inside the Bay Area company growing pork products in a lab. Why some experts are pushing back. But let's start with your first alert weather today. Dry skies have returned, and now looks like we're in for a bit of a warm-up. Meteorologist Jessica Birch has a look at your forecast.
Well, we had some April showers to kick off the week, but now we're starting to dry up as we head into the coming days with 60s in the forecast for us this afternoon and widespread throughout the bay with some 50s along the coast as well. Now, this is warmer compared to where we were at yesterday, and we're actually going to continue to warm up as we head into the coming days too. Take a look at this. All throughout the west coast, after that system moved its way to the south, it left us with a little bit cooler weather. Today, we're sitting about 6 degrees below average in areas like San Francisco. Down into LA, they're about 9 degrees below where they should be. Now, as we head into the next 6 to 10 days, we actually get this really nice warm up that's going to be noticeable widespread throughout the Bay Area. Now, it comes in a little bit of a wave because by next Monday, there's another chance of showers with a little bit cooler weather as this weak cold front moves through, bringing us back to the 60s. But after that, areas like Livermore, we're all the way over into San Jose, two of our warmest spots here in the Bay, will get those 70s and then quickly turn into 80s right around the corner as we head into the next 10 days. This is something to look forward to, though. We have a little bit of spring-like weather for us with on and off showers to kick off the week. We dry up into the rest of the week with beautiful sunshine in store for us by Friday heading into Saturday. Sunday is going to be a great day, too, to get out there and get some fresh air before Monday rolls around and more showers roll in from offshore at that point. It's only an isolated event, though. Once we head into Tuesday, we dry up with more sunshine around the corner.
President Trump unveiling details of his new tariffs today. They are set to take effect immediately after the announcement, despite warnings from some economists over increased prices. The president says they are reciprocal tariffs on countries that tax U.S. goods. That's in addition to the 25% tariffs on foreign cars set to take effect tomorrow. The White House says these tariffs will generate hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue and bring jobs back to the United States.
We are focused on restoring the golden age of America and making America a manufacturing superpower.
Economists say changes to manufacturing will take time, and we could see other countries retaliate with new tariffs on the U.S.
Even if it does, that requires new factories to be built. That doesn't happen overnight.
They're going to retaliate with, in Europe we already know, whiskey and jeans and Harleys, and the American farmer is going to be in the crosshairs around the globe.
As for the countries that have big trade deficits with the U.S., government data shows China, the European Union, and Mexico are among those at the top of the list. Oakland has the 9th busiest port in the United States. The port says most of their traffic comes from Asia, and we've already seen tariffs on China. Veronica Macias has more from the port.
The last time there were tariffs, according to the maritime director here at the Port of Oakland back in 2018, there were very little disruptions to trade. That's because this is a unique and very critical hub on the West Coast, with 50% of things in containers being imports and the other 50% being exports. But right now, it's the need for clarity that's causing a disruption for trade.
The uncertainty is really around is what percentage is going to be implemented with the tariffs. So once that's established, then importers can establish the routes and the sourcing of where the products are going to be sourced from, as well as the contract pricing they're going to be selling to the end customer.
So what can Americans expect to pay more on? The majority of the items here imported into Oakland being from Asia. So we're going to be paying things for electronics, apparel, furniture, and things that for the time being, there's going to be a lower volume of things imported. But when the market does stabilize, 100% of that cost going to consumers like you and me.
And we went to a car dealership in Fremont over the weekend, found a lot of shoppers there like Edgar Cruz, who wanted to get the keys to a new car before the auto tariffs go into effect.
The plan was exactly to get it in 2 months. 2 months. So yeah, because of the tariffs, I had to decide to get it today. Yeah, to get it today.
Well, you can track the prices of goods impacted by tariffs yourself. We have all that info for you on the CBS News website. You can also see the potential changes for groceries, cars, and more. That is at cbsnews.com/tariffs. The city of San Francisco is taking a harder line approach to try to get people off of drugs and into treatment. Today, Mayor Daniel Lurie announced no more city handouts of syringes and fentanyl smoking kits unless people are already in treatment counseling or connected to some sort of city services. It is the latest move away from the harm reduction approach, which supporters say helps meet drug users where they're at. But critics say only enables their drug use. The changes announced today go into effect at the end of the month. Muni is making cuts to several of its bus lines as it faces a $50 million budget gap. The SFMTA moved forward yesterday with slashing and shortening 5 bus routes this summer. The transit agency says the 5 Fulton, the 9 San Bruno, and 31 Balboa will turn around at Market Street, and the 6 Haight Parnassus and 21 Hayes are going to combine into one line. Muni says those cuts will help save about $7 million. Meantime, one of San Francisco's busiest streets is getting a new bike lane. The SFMTA approved changes to Oak Street in the Panhandle. The street is going to go from 4 lanes down to 3. 23 parking spots will go away. Construction set to begin later this year. Today is marking a new chapter in Bay Area baseball. The San Jose Giants and the Oakland Ballers facing off for the first time ever in what is being called the Battle of the Bay 2.0. Our Amanda Harry spoke with management from both teams about the new spin on a classic rivalry game.
Baseball has been a big part of Bay Area history. But the A's leaving Oakland brought an end to the long-standing Battle of the Bay. At least, that's what people thought, until the president of the San Jose Giants, Ben Taylor, had what felt like a far-fetched proposal.
It was one of those late-night ideas, and there's a void that has to be filled.
Taylor grew up in the Bay Area and played baseball all through high school. He looked forward to seeing the Giants and the A's face off each year and was disappointed it was over. So he reached out to the owners of the Oakland Ballers to propose a new Battle of the Bay, 2.0, this time between San Jose and Oakland.
We're taking a piece of the Bay Area baseball history that has meant so much to this area and this region of fan and bringing it back.
Co-founder of the Ballers, Paul Friedman, says they jumped at the opportunity.
Well, we just want to make sure that the excitement of baseball stays around.
And this matchup is going to be monumental.
To our knowledge, the first time in the history of baseball that an independent minor league team is playing an affiliated minor league team.
The Giants are a single A affiliate for the San Francisco Giants. The Ballers play in the independent Pioneer League.
It's a big opportunity for them to show up in the spotlight, televised game, and see what they can do.
The Ballers haven't started spring training yet, but they're going to be ready for their first appearance at Excite Ballpark in San Jose, which holds up to 3,200 fans.
You get an intimate entertainment experience that you just don't have much of anywhere else in the Silicon Valley.
Taylor says people will be traveling from across the Bay Area to see the Battle of the Bay 2.0.
We've got folks driving down from areas of Northern California that we don't generally see tickets purchased from. So certainly folks are going to be purchasing hotel rooms, staying the night, enjoying everything that San Jose has to offer in addition to the game itself.
Both teams hope this will be just the first meeting in a long, friendly rivalry.
This is the inaugural season, but will be far from the last time that this game takes place.
Creating new traditions for a new era of Bay Area sports.
And if you can't catch the game in person, you can watch all the action tonight live on Pix Plus. First pitch is at 6 p.m. Still ahead here on CBS News Bay Area, President Trump's mass deportation plan dredging up some painful memories for a lot of people in the Bay Area. Why they say this feels like we are repeating a dark chapter in our history.
It was unfair. It was racist.
It didn't matter if you were a citizen at all.
Us two employees at a comic book store transform into modern-day crime fighters.
We're like, okay, this is probably the guy.
How a team of amateur sleuths cracked the case, and a company in San Francisco creating pork in a lab when you can see it on store shelves.
Throughout the Bay Area, we are gearing up for a warm-up and a dry-up widespread throughout the Bay. I mean, we're going to sit in the low 60s today throughout most of our inland areas and along the peninsula too. But by tomorrow, heading into our Friday forecast, we jump from the low 60s to the low 70s right around the corner with mid 70s in the forecast. Heading into this weekend's forecast, it's going to be beautiful as we head into this weekend with dry conditions widespread throughout the Bay. Now heading into next Monday, we get another batch of showers rolling in from offshore, but we dry up as we head into mid next week.
We are hearing from a couple of people who have lived in the South Bay for a long time, whose families were forced into internment camps during World War II. They say President Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is bringing up painful memories of that time when it was used to round up 120,000 Japanese Americans. Now, that same act is the justification for the deportation of Venezuelan immigrants. The Trump administration now admitting that it did deport a Maryland man in violation of a judge's order in March. Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia was arrested for alleged involvement in a gang, which he denies. Well, he was then deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador. In 2019, Garcia was granted protected status by an immigration judge, which specifically bars the federal government from sending him to El Salvador, where he could be in danger.
The error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error.
Nobody got a hearing. And he didn't get a hearing. And this is what happens when you don't have due process.
The Trump administration now says Garcia cannot be returned home to Maryland because he's no longer in U.S. custody. 83 years ago, 120,000 Japanese Americans were taken from their home without due process after the U.S. government invoked the Alien Enemies Act for only the third time in history. Orion Yamamoto had a chance to visit the Japanese American Museum in San Jose, where for many in the community, watching the act invoked once again, stirring up anxiety, sadness, and anger.
To take a step inside this tiny museum in San Jose is like walking into the past, where Tom Izu and Susan Hayase hope people will learn about a painful time for the Japanese American community.
We need to remember this history.
We never want this to happen again to any other people.
On December 7, 1941, Imperial Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, thrusting America into World War II and sparking a rise in anti-Japanese sentiment. 120,000 Japanese living on the West Coast, 70,000 U.S. citizens, were rounded up and sent to one of 10 internment camps in the country.
It didn't matter if you were a citizen at all.
Tom's family was taken to the Poston camp in Arizona. Susan's family to the Amachi camp in Colorado.
It was unfair. It was racist.
To justify the incarceration of the Japanese, the U.S. government used the Alien Enemies Act of 1798.
The act basically says that when it is a declared war or a predatory incursion by a foreign government, then people can be removed.
It is the same act UC Law San Francisco professor Rory Little, who teaches constitutional law, says the Trump administration is now using to arrest and deport Venezuelan immigrants accused of being gang members and drug dealers, as those gangs are, quote, threatening an invasion or predatory incursion against the United States.
The administration today is saying, oh, you know, the invasion of our country by gangs that we say are effectively controlling a foreign government, that ought to be included within the compass of the statute.
Currently, the Federal Court of Appeals has put a temporary block on the Trump administration's interpretation of the Alien Enemies Act. The White House says it plans to appeal the case to the U.S. Supreme Court. Meanwhile, for those in the Japanese American community whose families were taken away without due process 83 years ago, it is like watching history repeat itself.
And this is just a travesty of justice. And when I look at these pictures of the barracks and think about my parents being there, I think of what a nightmare it is to be accused and not to be able to defend yourself.
Well, until this year, the Alien Enemies Act has only been invoked 3 times, each during a major conflict. The War of 1812, World War I, and most recently World War II, used during the Japanese internment, which for decades later, President Reagan and Congress apologized, the U.S. government admitting what they did was wrong. Well, you might remember last week we told you about what seemed to be a simple break-in case, surveillance video catching burglars smashing into Crush Comics. That's a bookshop in Castro Valley. Now, the suspects got away with dozens of valuable comic books and other items. A few days later, the Alameda County Sheriff's Department made an arrest even announcing a suspect had been linked to a robbery at another store. But it turns out it wasn't just a couple of isolated break-ins. There were at least 3 other burglaries over several weeks at comic shops and toy stores across the East Bay. And here's the kicker. It wasn't the police who tracked down that suspect. Katie Nielsen shows us how an employee at the Castro Valley comic book store cracked the case.
A brazen thief who doesn't try very hard to cover his tracks, and a ragtag group of detectives who are hot on his trail. It sounds like it could be the plot to a new comic book series, but actually, this is the true story of the Castro Valley Avengers. Crush Comics store manager Cole Sanders and owner Josh Hunter never thought they'd find themselves as real-life comic book vigilantes.
It's wild. It's so funny.
They're on the cutting edge of crime.
Is this like a, yeah.
Yeah. We got some clues.
But that's exactly what happened after the shop was burglarized in the early morning hours of March 22nd.
When I got down here, I was like, okay, it's not as bad as it could be. I'm going to try to be really positive about this.
The burglar cleared the wall where the most valuable comic books were displayed. Josh thought they were gone for good until one of his employees spotted a very specific comic book for sale on eBay less than 12 hours after the burglary.
This is the one that really, solved the case. The absolutely unique one-of-one sketch cover from our artist friend Dan. When I saw that on eBay, I was like, I'm just going to buy that and see what happens. And we got the guy's name and address and everything, and there it was.
From there, Josh went to an Instagram page for someone with the same name and found this: a Lego Bandit figurine offering to buy, sell, or trade Lego sets in the East Bay, plus a photo which looked very similar to the mystery man in the hoodie on the shop's surveillance video. The honorary detectives didn't stop there and contacted a competing shop in San Leandro that had also been broken into recently.
I called him and I was like, hey, we found this eBay page. They looks almost certainly like they stole some of our stuff. You should check too. And they got back to us and they were like, yeah, there's like 10 of our books on there right now. And I was like, wow, okay.
When they saw Lego items on the eBay page, they reached out to a toy shop in San Ramon that had recently lost a number of valuable sets to a shoplifter.
I smell trouble.
She's like, do you think this is him? And she sent me a picture of the guy that they had, and he wasn't mass in this one. And based on the Google searches and stuff that we did, we're like, okay, this is probably the guy.
They turned the information over to police, and just a couple days later, another toy shop was hit.
And my wife and I are looking at each other, and same thing. They broke the window, they got in, they stole a bunch of stuff and left. Do you think this could be the same guy? So I go to message them on Instagram. We had already had a message from them saying that, hey, we think it's the same guy.
The very next day, the Alameda County Sheriff's Department served a search warrant at the home of 29-year-old Narula Amiri of Livermore, where they say they found tens of thousands of dollars of comic books, collectibles, and Lego sets, the majority of which were returned to their respective stores.
Everybody's really appreciative. Everybody's really cool. We have now like a little text group chain of shop owners talking about it.
Reflecting on the entire experience, the Castro Valley Avengers could only do one thing: quote, another comic book superhero.
What did Peacemaker say? Who knows why crazy men do the things that they do? Yeah.
Josh and Cole say they're now actually thinking about publishing their own comic book series based on the break-in and subsequent detective work. But they said they'd have to change it up a little bit and make the villain a little harder to catch.
The other suspect from the break-ins is still at large. We reached out to the Sheriff's Department for an update and have not yet heard back. Still ahead, we are going to take you inside a company in San Francisco that says it has broken new ground in creating pork grown in a lab.
Started with a small sample that we took from a live pig. As the sample grew, we now were able to make real pork just without having to slaughter the animal.
Well, how would you like to eat meat that was grown in a lab? We've already reported how restaurants both here and in D.C. are serving chicken that a pair of Bay Area labs are growing from chicken cells. Now it's cell-cultivated pork that just got the okay from the FDA. Our Suji Nam went inside a lab in San Francisco where their pork products could soon hit store shelves.
Here we have some of our first products that'll hit the shelves. We have our Mission Barnes meatballs, our Mission Barnes bacon.
Eitan Fisher is looking at his years of scientific research finally come to life. Mission Barnes cell-cultivated pork. He and his team developed a pork product without the conventional agricultural practices. All the pork you're seeing here is from one pig.
Started with a small sample that we took from a live pig, and we took that sample and fed it plant-based nutrients. And as the sample grew, we now were able to make real pork just without having to slaughter the animal.
Eitan then combined that pork fat with pea protein, saying that while it's not 100% pork, the texture and taste are similar.
Being able to grow pork this way, this is really a new step in the evolution of agriculture.
With its recent FDA approval, Mission Barnes will slowly roll out its products at grocery stores in the Bay Area. Eitan says with influenzas like swine flu and bird flu transmitting to pigs, his methodology is sustainable. But Dr. Ricardo San Martin, the director of Alt Meat Lab at UC Berkeley, says he's seeing a significant decline in trends for alternative meat on the market.
The economics are terribly bad. So even considering, technological changes and being optimistic, it's just non-scalable. The problem is this one.
He adds that the conversation in his class is finding innovative ways to make the source of our foods more sustainable, rather than finding yet another way to replicate meat.
But to be perceived it's not 1%. I mean, it has to be around the percentage that is in the real food, which is about 20. A burger may have 20% fat. So I mean, the most delicious burgers are the ones that have more fat. And so you're adding, let's say, 10% of a very expensive ingredient, with the claim that the already not so good taste notes in the plant-based food are going to be masked.
But Eitan, on the other hand, says this is a monumental moment in the food system.
Go to the supermarket and buy real pork, but made without a pig.
And despite the competition with 100% meat products on the shelves, he says he hopes to make a sustainable impact in the evolving world of food.
So Mission Barnes has not yet announced prices for their products, but they say that they're hoping to be competitive with the conventional pricing of actual pork products. Coming up in our next half hour here on CBS News Bay Area, it was once housing the worst of the worst, and now it has gotten a real facelift. The changes planned for San Quentin that will shift the entire model away from punishment. Plus, we're going to take you into the tallest lighthouse in the state to check out a major makeover there. Makovic, and this is the Minute. President Trump set to announce his new tariff plan this afternoon. The White House says they're going to be on a broad range of countries that tax U.S. goods. They'll go into effect immediately after the announcement. These are in addition to the 25% auto tariffs starting tomorrow. The family of Cash App founder Bob Lee is suing his convicted killer's family. Nima Momeni was found guilty of second-degree murder for stabbing Lee in 2023. The wrongful death lawsuit asks for money for medical expenses and lost wages. Momeni's sentencing is scheduled for May. And the SFMTA ending 5 bus routes at Market Street this summer because of a $50 million budget gap. The 5 Fulton, 9 San Bruno, and 31 Balboa will turn around at Market, the 6 Haight Parnassus and 21 Hayes combining into one line. I'm Ann Makovic with the Minute.
You're streaming CBS News Bay Area.
Well, we had some April showers to kick off the week, but now we're starting to dry up as we head into the coming days with 60s in the forecast for us this afternoon, widespread throughout the bay with some 50s along the coast as well. Now, this is warmer compared to where we were at yesterday, and we're actually going to continue to warm up as we head into the coming days too. Take a look at this. All throughout the west coast, after that system moved its way to the south, it left us with a little bit cooler weather. Today, we're sitting about 6 degrees below average in areas like San Francisco. Down into LA, they're about 9 degrees below where they should be. Now, as we head into the next 6 to 10 days, we actually get this really nice warm up that's going to be noticeable widespread throughout the Bay Area. Now, it comes in a little bit of a wave because by next Monday, there's another chance of showers with a little bit cooler weather as this weak cold front moves through, bringing us back to the 60s. But after that, areas like Livermore, we're all the way over into San Jose, 2 of our warmest spots here in the Bay, will get those 70s and then quickly turn into 80s right around the corner as we head into the next 10 days. This is something to look forward to, though. We have a little bit of spring-like weather for us with on and off showers to kick off the week. We dry up into the rest of the week with beautiful sunshine in store for us by Friday heading into Saturday. Sunday's going to be a great day, too, to get out there and get some fresh air before Monday rolls around and more showers roll in from offshore at that point. It's only an isolated event, though. Once we head into Tuesday, we dry up with more sunshine around the corner.
San Quentin has gone through a lot of changes over the years, but now the state's oldest prison is getting ready for a makeover. Many years ago, it held the largest active death row in the United States, but there hasn't been an execution there since 2006. Just 2 years ago, Governor Newsom downgraded it from a maximum security facility and renamed it the San Quentin Rehabilitation Center. As a medium security prison, it now has rehab programs for the inmates. Last year, we showed you how inmates were training service dogs for the nonprofit Canine Companions. Now there are plans to take the programs there a step further in the spirit of a Norwegian prison model, something they're already trying out in Salinas. John Ramos says more on the dark legacy of San Quentin and its coming transformation.
A lot of people don't realize it, but San Quentin really isn't San Quentin anymore, at least not the way we used to think of it. It's not even a maximum security prison, more like medium security. And come the beginning of next year, the entire function of this place is going to change. Big time. It looks the same from the outside, its forbidding facade towering overhead like a medieval castle. But inside, the whole purpose of the prison has changed.
The goal really is to have it be the last stop before people go home. And so if you've got about 2 years before you go home, San Quentin's going to be the place to be.
It's called the California model, and construction has already begun. New buildings are being constructed with cells that look more like small apartments rather than cages. It's being patterned after the prison system in Norway, and San Quentin will be the place for people approaching release from other prisons to get ready for the transition. The facility will feature a cafe and food trucks, all operated by inmates. It will have a farmer's market with produce grown by the gardening program. And there will be lots of vocational training, like the computer coding classes by the group Last Mile that began years ago in San Quentin and is now offered in institutions across the country.
So it's going to really expand the ability for people that are incarcerated at San Quentin to have more access to education, as well as they're going to have a very strong reentry program. So they're partnering with some of the current reentry programs that are in the facility and others from outside.
One of those could be CROP, an Oakland-based reentry program that actually offers housing for those just getting out. The program supports the former inmates as they take their first step back into the world. We covered their opening in 2023, and in the past 2 years, they have a record that would be hard to improve upon.
We have a recidivism rate of 0%. With almost 200 people going through our program, that is a huge win for the state of California.
In the past, inmates were just thrown back into the community, and many of them simply failed.
Their prison sentence continues well after they are released from prison. And this is not increasing our safety in our communities, and it is not setting people up for success to stimulate our local economy, and it is not saving taxpayer dollars.
It costs taxpayers about $160,000 for each person incarcerated. And Last Mile's executive director says the people who will complain that California is coddling its criminals don't understand how much it's costing to keep them behind bars.
There's a lot of people that are naysayers about this, but the facts are the facts. And I think if we stick to the numbers and we look at the decrease in recidivism, the decrease in additional crime that happens when you truly work with people and rehabilitate them, the answer is really clear. You know, I don't think anyone could argue the numbers.
Here's the most important number, 2026. On January 1st of the new year, San Quentin will officially stop being a prison and become a rehabilitation center. And a new legacy will have begun.
Well, the new facility is going to hold about 2,400 inmates. That's about 1,000 less than now, and will cost about $240 million to construct. Along the San Mateo County coastline lies the tallest lighthouse in the state, Pigeon Point Lighthouse, and it is in need of a major makeover of its own. The lighthouse is located off Highway 1 just south of Pescadero. It was first lit back in 1872, but over time, the structure of the historic lighthouse started to rust and crumble. Access to the lighthouse was closed off about 2 decades ago, but for the past year, it's been in the process of getting a proper facelift. Brian Hackney shows us where renovations stand now.
November 11th, 2011, the night the original light went out at Pigeon Point after 140 years. Battered by surf, strafed by fog, the lighthouse still looked great from a distance, but up close...
Pretty much everything that you see here on the exterior that's black is cast iron, and it's all corroded.
Julie Barrow is Special Projects Coordinator at the state park.
You know, the work is going really well.
Hey, we're the photographer, and Julie, we're going to come right up there.
James Pelletier oversees the $16 million rebuild, which had Pigeon Point all meshed up. Scaffolding and mesh for more than a year, but it's back.
It's a striking sight again. The full body scaffolding came down at the end of January. We were really excited about that.
But the job's not over yet, with workmen hard at it up here. 10 stories above the crashing surf below.
Hey, we're going to start heading in and start heading up, guys.
And it's a long, daily vertical commute.
From the ground to the top is 149 steps. 136 of them are the cast iron steps that make up the spirals.
It's a good 5-minute climb to the top. This is speeded up. And the views out the window on the way up. Wow, look at that.
Pretty sweet office.
The passageway becomes increasingly narrow with more steps ahead until we pop through the service room.
There's nothing to service in the service room, but I'm sure it has a purpose.
And finally,
I see sunlight.
Yes.
We're up at the top in the lantern room, where the work here is
Time-consuming. Found a lot more corrosion than what we had anticipated. So it's a lot of hand drilling and hand tapping. Tedious work.
There's another year's worth of work to be done. And while the workers are doing it, what a view they're treated to at the top. The same view the original lamp in the lighthouse had.
Right here is where the 9-foot-tall, 6-foot-wide Fresnel lens sat.
The question, if the original lens will ever go back in the lighthouse.
We are working towards that goal. We'd like to have the first order lens restored to the lighthouse.
And if the jewel in the lighthouse crown ever does return, no doubt it would leave everyone beaming again. But first, we have to go back down.
The project is expected to be finished by spring of next year. Coming up next, March Madness stretching into April and the Final Four right around the corner. Now, a freshman from Duke is leading the charge for the Blue Devils and how his teammates refuse to let him act like a superstar.
Throughout the Bay Area, we are gearing up for a warm-up and a dry-up widespread throughout the Bay. I mean, we're going to sit in the low 60s today throughout most of our inland areas and along the peninsula too. But by tomorrow, heading into our Friday forecast, we jump from the low 60s to the low 70s right around the corner with mid-70s in the forecast. Heading into this weekend's forecast, it's going to be beautiful as we head into this weekend with dry conditions widespread throughout the Bay. Now, heading into next Monday, we get another batch of showers rolling in from offshore, but we dry up as we head into mid-next week.
Well, if you like Cinderella stories, this has not exactly been the basketball tournament for you. As Vern Glenn reports, all 4 #1 seeds reached the Final Four for the first time since 2008.
This is the Northern California Honda Dealers Madness Minute.
Duke will arrive in San Antonio as the favorite to win the national title. And the Blue Devils are hoping they pick up where they left off in the East region, where they won their 4 games by an average of 23 points.
Oh, we're live, huh? Who's ready to go to San Antonio?
The Blue Devils are led by freshman star Cooper Flagg. The 18-year-old from Maine is expected to be the #1 pick in the NBA draft. But his teammates do their best to keep Flagg humble.
He likes to joke around. He's a good guy. He's good to us, even though he's talking crap. But yeah, I mean, he's a great guy to be around off the court.
I mean, he's just a kid. Yeah. I mean, he's always joking around and stuff, but no, he's cool. He's cool.
With the Madness Minute, I'm Vern Glenn.
And both Final Four games air on KPIX, and they'll be streaming on Paramount Plus. All starts at 3 p.m. Saturday. Then you can catch the championship game Monday at 5:50. From basketball to baseball, we are bringing you the Battle of the Bay 2.0 tonight. It is a matchup between the San Jose Giants and the Oakland Ballers. They're playing in San Jose, but you can catch all the action right from the comfort of your own home. We're going to be broadcasting it tonight at 6 p.m. on Pix Plus. Coming up, serving sweets with a smile. We're taking you to Ada's Cafe, which provides jobs for people with special needs.
I do everything here. I do drinks, I do sandwiches, I do dishes. That's what I do.
We have a very sweet success story from a bakery in Palo Alto. That is where adults with special needs are helping run a popular neighborhood spot known for its coffee and fresh baked goods. Our Len Ramirez takes us to Ada's Cafe.
Hello, Nisha.
There's something special about Charlie Hughes, who works at Ada's Cafe in Palo Alto, and it's not just how hardworking and friendly he is.
Enjoy that.
Charlie was born with developmental disabilities, but he isn't letting that hold him back from enjoying life by working hard and serving the public.
I do everything here. I do drinks, I do sandwiches, I do dishes. That's what I do.
Ada's is a non-profit corporation, and most of the employees have disabilities like Charlie.
It's all about the patience and the kindness and the support.
That's Charlie's mom, Kathleen Foley Hughes, a professional chef and caterer who started the idea behind Ada's when Charlie was in middle school and was isolated from mainstream students. What started as a school cafe project to help Charlie learn skills and interact with the other students ended up being her life's work that has helped so many others. Ada's Cafe is now a popular neighborhood spot known as much for its coffee drinks and freshly baked goodies as for its special employees.
75% of our employees are our mission-based employees, those people that have an intellectual disability, a physical disability, the neurodiverse, or someone who's experiencing a barrier to employment, which can be a lot of things.
Kathleen and her other staff members serve the customers as well, and at the same time act as helpers for the ones just learning.
They have someone there who's teaching them all the time. So it's it means it's crowded back here.
And as if all that weren't enough, Kathleen is also helping the community in other ways. She's donating a portion of coffee sales to Coastal Kids Home Care, which provides services to children with rare diseases. Margie Mayfield, whose home care patients have grown up to work at Ada's Cafe, says there is such a need for places like this.
We see a lot of times that our kids, once they turn 21, really lose a lot of support systems that they have. They can't go to their daycare centers or things like that. So we just love this concept. I wish more people did this. It's wonderful. They're incredibly dedicated employees. They work so hard. And so it's really, we love being connected to them because we see that more of our kids would be able to come through here.
Ada's Cafe.
Charlie lives at home and likes to go to Giants games. He once got to throw out the ceremonial first pitch at a game.
Right here, watch this. Oh, big bear hug.
But mostly his days are spent here, working and helping his family business.
It makes me feel proud and happy that I get to work in this cafe.
The cafe pays its mission-based employees $18.75 an hour, and with other rising costs, it's not a high-profit business. But it has other goals, and now well into its second decade, Kathleen says it's helped hundreds of people like her son find a sense of purpose, happiness, and a paycheck.
Very cool. Well, this is a story about heart, horsepower, and an unexpected hero on this World Autism Awareness Day. We're celebrating a racing prodigy who doesn't even have a license yet. He's 14 years old. Cameron Caraway started racing when he was just 6. Never took his foot off the gas. He has raced in more than 200 competitions and has become California's first Black state champ. Someone like Cameron can line up sponsors and secure their future, but instead, he dedicated the space on his race car to Joshua's Gift. That is a nonprofit supporting families with autism.
He's an incredible role model. We have other kids now coming behind that I want to be a race car driver.
Catch the full story by Itai Had tonight at 5 on our evening edition. Thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ann Makovic. We're going to be right back with your first alert forecast and another look at your top stories. I'm Ann Makovic, and this is The Minute. President Trump is set to announce new tariffs today. He says they are on a broad range of countries that tax U.S. goods.